Hello, welcome you all. So, is there any question regarding the last session? Yesterday we discussed costing section of F5, which includes activity-based costing, target costing, life cycle costing, throughput accounting. So, have you covered that? Is it safe for me to presume that everything is fine? Okay, I'm presuming that there is no question regarding the last session. Few important points for you. The handouts, for those who have not received any handout, they can have these on the panel. So there's a section of handouts in the panel and they can download it. So we had covered introduction session and the costing session. They can also download the today's one, which is on decision making. Mohammed Ijlal Zia has asked me to solve an example for ABC with batches. Currently, I don't have any right now. But what is the problem that you are facing in batches form? Can you please explain me so that I can explain it right away? Muta Siddiqui asked me, where can we find questions yesterday ones? Dear, you can, first of all, there are two different kinds of questions. One is my examples, and these examples are in the slides. And the other one is the questions that I was discussing on the Campus Insight. So for this, log on to acca.campusinsight.net. You have been received the login details and password. So log in and password that, and there you can see the day-wise questions that I'm discussing. So Ijlal Zia is actually confused with the denominator and the allocation. Okay, I will try to explain it in a moment. Let me open the OneNote document. Here it is. So what happened is, to calculate the activity-based costing, we have to calculate the ABR. So for example, if it is a setup cost, so I will divide the setup cost, and suppose its cost driver is number of batches, so I have to divide it with number of batches. The total number of batches, and that will be my ABR. Now, maybe you are confused with some of the example. So, in some examples, you have been told with the number of units. So, I suppose it is 20,000. And you have also been told about the batch size. Suppose it is 500 units. Now, it is important to note that this is the batch size, not the number of batches. And as a cost driver, I require the number of batches. So remember that number of batches in such situation can be done by the number of units, which is 20,000, divided by 500, which is the batch size. So it will be how much? 40. So my answer will be 40 batches. So this is first we have to calculate it, and then we have to calculate the APR. So you might be confused that sometimes why 500 has been multiplied. The reason sometimes is that if I portray the formula like this, that my activity cost divided by, now as the number of batches formula is number of units further divided by the batch size. So if you know the algebra a bit, because the batch size is divided by a denominator value, then according to algebra rule, this can come up in numerator as well. So that means the formula in the exam can then also be written as activity cost multiplied by batch size divided by number of units. I think this is the situation that is confusing you, that sometimes it is going to multiply and sometimes it is going to divide. The principle over here is the cost driver is number of batches, not the batch size. So the easy way to do is first calculate the number of batches and then first calculate the number of batches and then put it in the value. I know some examiner solution who has done with this way. So I advise you to do your question, all your questions with this point. Remember that there is a difference between a batch size and the number of batches. Batch size means how many units are we going to produce in one batch. So one batch is equals to 500 units. So any question? Okay, then let's start my today's topic, and this will be on the decision making section. Now, if you have seen my introduction earlier yesterday, by the way, the decision making has 5 different topics. One is CVP, the other one is pricing, then we have relevant costing, linear programming, and risk. And if we can break them, we have 2 different kinds of sections. One is section B type questions. So there are few topics which are likely to come up in section B, and then there are some topics who are likely to appear in section C. The topics that we had discussed yesterday are mostly from those topics which are likely to appear in section B, which are the OT cases. So I haven't discussed much about how section C will come up, how does it look like, etc. But today, the first 2 topics, which is CVP and pricing, these topics are likely to appear in, as again, the OT cases, the section B, whereas sections, the linear programming topic that we will be covering today is a kind of topic that can appear in section C type questions. So today we will also see how these questions can appear in the exam, and how are we going to solve this. Although today's topic will not be more about the Excel techniques because of the nature of the linear programming, but still you will analyze how I'm going to do that. So let's start with the CVP topic, if you all allow me. If you have any questions, please ask now. Otherwise, I'm starting from a CVP analysis. Okay then. I'm starting. So I'm closing my questions area. So today's first topic is the discussion of CVP analysis. So what is a CVP analysis? CVP analysis is a mixture of different kinds of analysis, and such analysis will help us to determine the different patterns of cost, assess the profitability, and how much will be my profit if my volume changes. So within this analysis, the very important analysis is the break-even analysis. And first of all, I will be discussing the break-even point of a single product. The break-even point of a single product. So first of all, the break-even point, the definition of a break-even point is the point where total cost is equals to total sales revenue, or we can also say where there is neither profit nor loss. So break-even point is a situation where profit is equals to 0. Now, if you want to calculate the break-even point in units, the formula is fixed cost divided by the contribution per unit. This will give me the answer in units, the break-even point in units. So if we see the break-even chart, we have x-axis and y-axis. In x-axis, we will be using units, and in y-axis, we will be having the dollar. So that means I will be representing revenue and cost both in that. So first of all, if I put a straight line of sales revenue, this will be something like this, because at 0 unit, its sales will be 0. But as the activity level increases, its sales revenue will increase. Now, this is the total cost. So the total cost line is pretty much similar to the semi-variable cost. This is because the total cost has both the variables, fixed and variable. So this is a point, here it is, at which the total cost and total revenue are same. That means there won't be any profit at that point. So this will be the break-even point. So, is there any question? So this is the break-even point. Is there any question up till now? Okay then. Now, if we divide if we put a line under the total cost or fixed cost, so then we have a gap. Now there is a gap between the total cost and fixed cost. This will be known as variable cost. Now let's discuss the margin of safety. So the margin of safety represents the level by which output can fall before the organization makes a loss. So for example, you have 1000 units planned, the budgeted units are 1000, and at break even point there won't be any profit nor there will be any loss. So suppose it is 800 units. That means my budget can fall by rather 200 units before making a loss. If my units fall to 199 units, then I will be selling 801 units and there will be a very minimal profit. A minimal one, but a profit. But at 800 units, that is reducing by 200, I will have a profit is equals to 0. And if I further drop my units, I will be having a loss. So the difference between the budgeted unit and the break-even point will be my margin of safety. So let's coming back to the previous chart. So let's assume that this is my budgeted output. Now, margin of safety will be the difference between break-even point and the budgeted output. So suppose budgeted output is 1000 and the break-even output is 800. So the margin of safety will then be 200. So this is the margin of safety. Now we generally express the margin of safety in percentage. So to calculate the margin of safety in percentage, the formula will be first calculate the margin of safety and then divide it with the budgeted output. Let's further analyze the break-even chart. Now, this is total cost. So if I subtract the total cost, I will get the variable cost. So this green line represents the variable cost only. Now the difference between the total cost and variable cost is fixed cost. And there is also a gap between the variable cost and sales. This will be known as contribution. So this is further information that is provided in. And yes, there is one more further information because this was my break-even point. Now, there is a gap between sales revenue and the total cost, which is beyond the break-even point. This will be profit. And there is the same gap before the break-even point level, and in that gap, total cost was more than the total revenue, so this will be representing a loss. So, is there any question? Wakas Jan has asked me, Harim Afzal has asked me, is there any further calculation for break-even? Yes, there is. Let me complete the topic first. Wakas Jan has requested me to, sir, please repeat. Which point to repeat, Wakas? Okay, I will. Let me change the color first. And let's choose this black color. And let me just erase my previous lines. Okay. This is fixed cost. Oh, sorry, the total cost. So if I subtract the fixed cost from the total cost, I will get the variable cost only, correct? I will get the variable cost. So I have subtracted the fixed cost from that so that I can make a line of variable cost. So this line represents variable cost. This green line is a variable cost. This is a point where total cost and total revenue are same. So this will be the break-even point. On the x-axis, I can see how many units are at the break-even point. Now there is a gap, a difference between the two lines. So let's see one by one. Now one gap is between the total cost line and the variable cost line. This gap is known as fixed cost. We can also have a gap between this red line and the green line, this gap. So red line represents sales revenue and green line represents variable cost. So this gap represents the contribution. If I can further analyze, there is a gap between the total cost and total revenue. So this is total cost line, this is total revenue line. And this gap will be known as profit or loss. If total revenue line is above total cost, it will be profit, and if the total cost line is above the total revenue, it will be a loss. Now let's also see the profit volume chart, another way to present the break-even point. So the profit volume chart presents information in a way that clearly shows the change in the level of profit. So from the previous table, if I can prepare the profit volume chart, it will be something like that. Now in this graph, this line represents profit or loss. So when you have not sell any unit, the company will make a loss. Because it is in minus, the company will make a loss. Now as soon as your sales volume increases, this loss starts to reduce. And finally, there will be a point where there is neither profit nor loss. So this will be break-even point. So this is the other way to present your organization's data. Sulaiman Abudar has asked me, can we determine margin of safety through break-even charts? So yes. If I can go back for you. Sorry. Here it is. So as you can see, this is the break-even point, and the break-even point is 50 units. Now in the question, it has said that this will be the budgeted units, and if you put it down, that means 70 units will be your budgeted units. So then you can calculate the margin of safety of 20 units. So this is how you can do that. Now let's further discuss the contribution to sales ratio. So the contribution to sales ratio, also known as CS ratio, and there is one further name, that is PV ratio, which is profit volume ratio. So this will be contribution per unit divided by unit selling price. Normally this ratio is presented in percentage, so we will be multiplying it with 100% to present it in percentage. So that means if we have to calculate the break-even point in sales value, then we have two methods. The first method can be First of all, calculate the break-even points. I am right BEP for break-even points. So first of all, calculate the break-even point in units and then multiply it with the selling price. I will then have the answer of break-even point in revenue. The other way to do it is divide the fixed cost by CS ratio. Divide the fixed cost by CS ratio. Now sometimes we have been also been asked to calculate the sales for a certain level of profit. For this, what we simply can do is that we add the required profit in the fixed cost. What we do? We simply add the required profit in the fixed cost. This can be used for break-even point to determine the sales units as well as sales revenue. But for sales revenue, of course, we will once again be using contribution to sales ratio. But all of this topic is based on some certain assumptions. And these are the assumptions. So first is cost behavior is assumed to be linear. Linear means straight line. And that will mean that your fixed cost, rather total fixed cost, is constant and your variable cost per unit is constant. This is an assumption. We will also assume that revenue is assumed to be linear, and this will mean selling price will also be assumed to be constant. Then volume produced is equals to volume sold. This assumption means no inventory. We will ignore inflation. And the last assumption, which is also very important, is that we assume that the sales mix will be constant. It will not change. But this assumption we will be using when there are multiple products. But we have just covered the break-even point topic of a single product. So is there any question up till now? Any question? Irfanullah Hussaini has asked me, please explain sales mix. Dear, I will be coming to sales mix, but this point is relevant to the multiple product. So this will be my first point to start. So actually, I just wanted to know, is there any question from your side regarding the single product? Mutar Siddiqui has also asked me, explain the last one once again, please. So that means he also might be talking about a constant sales mix. Dear, I will be explaining it. I haven't explained it yet. So don't worry about that. Harim Afzal has asked me, is there any difference for multiple products? So yes, there is a slight difference when we calculate the break-even point of a multiple product, and I will be discussing in a short while now. And Shazib Akhtar has requested me to let him know the question website. So it will be acca.campusinsight.net. Let me type it. It's acca.campusinsight.net. inside.net. So assume the only question is from the constant sales mix. So let's start with that topic. Now, in case of multiple product, we assume a constant sales mix must have been taken place all the time. So what is a constant sales mix then? Now what happened over here is if I could analyze that. For example, there are two products. Let me take it with the example. There are two products, product A and product B. And we have budgeted that 2000 units of A can be sold, and for B we have budgeted that 3000 units will be sold. Now if we take the ratio, so this will be 2:3. So that means if as a company we sell 2 units of A, then we also sell 3 units of B. Now this mix will be constant throughout my life, throughout the life of the product. This will mean whenever I sell 20 units of A, that will be meaning that I'm also selling 30 units of B. It is just like that. Whenever I will assume that whenever a customer will come for 2 units of A, he will also buy 3 units of B as well. So whoever the customer comes in will buy the combination of 2A and 3B every time. So this is the constant mix, which will not change. This is the proportion that will not change. So is there any question? Have you understood the constant mix? Now, sorry, I'm erasing it, and we will be discussing the questions on that, so don't worry about that. So break-even point is equal to fixed cost divided by contribution per mix. Fixed cost divided by the contribution per mix. So how do we do that? These are the steps. So first of all, we calculate the contribution per unit. Then we calculate the contribution per mix. And then we calculate the break-even point in terms of mixes. And finally, we calculate the number of units using the standard. Now, as far as sales revenue is concerned, we will calculate the break-even point in sales revenue by fixed cost divided by weighted average CS ratio. Fixed cost divided by weighted average CS ratio. So the most important point over here is how to determine the weighted average CS ratio. So for this, we calculate the revenue per mix. We also calculate the contribution per mix, and then we calculate the weighted average CS ratio. So let's see with this example. So in this example, first of all, I will be calculating the weighted average contribution to sales ratio for your company. And then afterwards, I will also calculate the break-even total sales revenue for the next year. So this is the break-even point in sales revenue. So please read this information silently. I am allowing you around 1 minute. So for the next 1 or 1.5 minutes, my mic will be on silent. So I hope you have read that. So now let's go to its discussion part. So first of all, we have to make or assess what is the constant mix. So for this, we will be making a ratio of that. So we have 20,000 units of C, 22,000 units of S, and 26,000 units of D. So first of all, if I can cancel out the three zeros, my ratio will be 20, 22, and 26. Now all of these three are divisible by 2. So if I divide it by 2, it will be 20 divided by 2, it will be 10. 22 divided by 2, it will be 11. And it will be 13. So 10 units of C 11 units of S, and 13 units of D will be my constant mix. Now to calculate the weighted average CS ratio, I have to calculate the selling price per mix. So let's see how do we calculate that. So first of all, let's write the mix. So it is 10, 11 and 13. 10 is for C, 11 is for S, and 13 is for D. The selling prices are how much? What is the selling price of C? Where it is presented? Over here. 110 for C, 160 for S, and 120 for D. So it is 110, 160, and 120. Now, carefully look at how do I calculate the selling price of a mix. Now for mix, what I will do, I will multiply the selling price with its each unit. So for C, it will be 110 multiplied by 10. This is C. Then I will add, for S, it will be 160 multiplied by 11 plus 120 multiplied by 13. So the total answer will be, how much will be the total answer? If you can calculate it, it will be 110 multiplied by 10 plus 160 multiplied by 11 plus 120 multiplied by 13. So it is 4420. Have you understood that, the 4420? Yes. Satkan, Aram, you both are correct. 4420. Now this 4420 will be known as selling price of mix. This is selling price of mix. Now I will be requiring the contribution per mix. So for this, first of all, I will calculate the contribution per unit of each. So the variable cost over here is, we have 4 different variable costs. When we sum it, the answer will be, for C it is 12 plus 8 plus 16 plus 14. So it is 50. That is, the variable cost for C is 50. So the contribution will be 60 for product C. Similarly, for product S it is 28 plus 22 plus 34 plus 20. So it is 104. 104. That means the contribution per unit will be 56. And for D it will be 16 plus 26 plus 22 plus 28. So it is 92. It is 92. That means the contribution per unit is 28. Yes, Salman Shahid and Salman Abudar, Abid Shah, they have all answered correctly. Now for mix, I will do the same that I had done with the selling price. So it will be 60 into 10 plus 56 into 11 plus 28 into 13. The answer will be how much? Anybody? 1450. As Salma Mehndi Hassan, kindly recalculate your answer. because Salman Shahid, Abid Shah, Satyan Ali, Hamza, Shafaqat all have calculated 1580. So the correct answer is 1580. So this is contribution of mix. Now if I take the CS ratio of this, CS ratio of the mix, this can be calculated by 1580, the contribution, divided by the selling price of a mix, which is 4420, multiply by the 100%. The answer will be how much? 1580 by 4420, it is 35.75%. 35.75%. So this is the weighted average CS ratio. Few students has calculated it perfectly. Salman, you have answered 35.74, but if you can see the value, it is 0.35746. So when you round it off, it will be 35.75%. So this is the answer of the first requirement. Now, the break-even point. So in the multiple product situation, the break-even point will be fixed cost divided by the contribution to sales ratio of mix, or this is also known as weighted average CS ratio. So I will divide the fixed cost with this weighted average CS ratio, which is 35.75%. The fixed cost is given in the question of 6,40,000. So it will be 640,000 divided by 35.75%. So what will be the answer? It will be 1790209. So 1790209.79 dollars, of course. Yes, Salman, correct. Abish has asked me, sir, I did not got the 10, 11 and 13 mix. How is it? So I will recap on the mix. Your mix is calculated on the budgeted sales. So either you will be provided with the mix or you have to see it from the budgeted sales. Now you see that your budgeted sales are 26,000 for D, 22,000 for S and 20,000 for C. So what you do, you take its ratio, and for that you will divide all of the 3 units with the same value. So for example, I can divide it by 1000 first, because 1000 is divisible by number of units of C, S and D. If I divide it by 1000, my remaining units will be 20, 22 and 26. Now all these 3 values, 20, 22 and 26, all of these can be divided by 2. It is divisible of 2. So if I divide it by 2, the answer will be 10. For S, the answer will be 11. And for D, the answer will be 13. Now 10, 11 and 13, all of these 3 cannot be further divisible by a certain number. So this will be my ratio, 10, 11 and 13. If all of these 3 are divisible by a number, I will divide it or further break down, I should say. So this is on the CVP topic. I will now move on to the software, which is the Campus Insight. So let me log in first. So I am now looking at day 2. All these questions are already included. So you can, if you log in, you can even access day 3, day 4, and day 5 as well. But we are on day 2 questions. And on day 2, we have questions on, we have 7 objective tests, 1 OT case, and then there is 1 section C type question. So the first question is on pricing. The second question is also on pricing. The third question is on limiting factor. Fourth is also on, yes, from the fourth question, this is the topic of CVP analysis. I'm just looking at these headings. So now the first question is, Justin company produces 2 products, the Max and Lex. Details are as follows. So we have been provided with the CS ratios. So this is the contribution to sales ratio of 0.4, that is 40%. And Lex has a CS ratio of 0.3 or 30%. We can also say that these are the contribution per unit as well. Or we can take the example for that. So anyway, the products are sold in the ratio of 3:5, and the total fixed costs are 850,000. Now, to calculate the break-even point in sales revenue, in the question we have 2 products, Max, M, and L. Its proportion is 3:5. Now, to calculate the weighted average CS ratio, I require a selling price of a mix and the contribution of a mix. Because in the question we have been provided with the CS ratio, which is the contribution margin, I can assume a selling price and then take the contribution per unit. So if I assume the selling price is $10, that will mean the contribution is 0.4, that is $4. Similarly, for L, if the selling price is, suppose once again I'm supposing the same value of $10, then it means the contribution per unit is 3. So the mix will be, both of these values, remember that I have assumed. So it will be 10 into 3 plus 10 into 5. So it will be how much? It will be 80. Similarly, this will be 10 into 4. Sorry, it's 3 into 4, not 10 into 4. It should be 3 into 4 plus 3 into 5. So if you can calculate it, it will be 3 into 5 plus 3 into 4. It will be 27. So this is the contribution of a mix and this is the selling price of a mix. So if I divide it by the selling price of image, I will have the answer of 33.75%. So this is the weighted average CS ratio. Now if I divide it by the fixed cost, which is 850,000, the break-even point will be 251,8518. 251,8518.52. So because in the answer it is rounded off to 0 decimal place, so the correct answer will be 251,8519. Yes, there are few people who are calculating it with me. And Abid Shah is calculating with me correctly. Salman Abuzar is calculating with me correctly. Elizabeth Abiona has asked me, please can you show your working and the question side by side? I will try. And Asad Rafiq has asked me that, sir, why did you assume 10? Why not 15 or 20? Well, Asad, you can assume that. But remember that then the contribution will be adjusted accordingly because we have been provided with the CS ratio. So let's first make it side by side as requested by one of the team. So this is the side by side. Can you see that? It's not working that properly. Let me try once again. So this is. And Asad, we can also use 15 or 20. So if we use 15 over here, suppose for M, that now the contribution margin is, or the CS ratio is 0.4. So I have to multiply 15 with 0.4 to get the answer of contribution per unit. So it will be 6 in this case. So you can use any value, any selling price. It will not matter. I used it for my own simplicity. Otherwise, I could have used 15, 20, any selling price. It will not matter. So Elizabeth, has that solved your purpose or not? I'm very bad in pronouncing the names. No, this has not solved your purpose. So what do you want? Do you want me? What I have... what I've done it over here that my working is on the left side. I have just put it a small so that you can see the complete working. And on the right side, you can see the information. Yes, the question is on the right side. You can access your own questions and you can see my video for further detail. So I'm moving on. Now this is a question of weighted average CS ratio. Now we have done two different questions. One is in my lecture example and the other one I've just done that. So this question is your home assignment. Please note its ID. It will be CVP analysis 0004 space 3478. Because when you open your question bank or the campus insight, the questions will be in different arrangement. So just look out for this heading, CVP analysis 0004 3478. This is a very simple question of CVP. In the question, it has been asked that a company ABC Limited has sales of $192,000, fixed cost of $40,000, and the contribution to sales ratio of 1:3. And we have to identify the profit. So this is a very simple question. So in the question, we have been told that the sales are 192,000. Its contribution ratio is 1/3. So if I multiply it by 1 and then divide it by 3, I will get the answer of contribution. So this will be 64,000. Now the fixed cost in the question is 40,000. So when I subtract that, I will get the answer of $24,000 profit. Yes, Aram is with me and he has correctly calculated the total contribution of 64,000. Yes. Abhisha has once again asked me, sir, how can we log into Campus Inside here? Thank you very much. The organizer has answered you. Now this question is on pricing. So we will discuss this question once we discuss the topic of pricing. This is an OT case. Let's see what is the OT case is about. So yes, in this question we have been asked to calculate the margin of safety. The margin of safety, as you can see that. So this means that this is the question on break-even point. So as usual, I am extracting the complete data. Please read the background information and in 3 to 4 minutes, and then I will be coming back to discuss to you. In the meanwhile, I am muting my mic and even switching off my camera so that you can concentrate on the background information. And in the meanwhile, if you have any question, you can ask and I will be answering that. I'm not going anywhere. Mohammed Ijlal Zia has asked me, sir, when exactly we have to use the given ratios of the products? So I didn't get that. When there is a multiple product situation, we use that when there is a multiple product situation. Mutar Siddiqui has asked me, is it paused? No, dear, I have allowed you to read the background information. My mic is on mute and I have switched off my camera for a while. So which kind of ratio you are asking me? Ijlal has asked me that I knew when there is a multiple product. So he wants to ask, so I'm not sure what he wants to ask then. Okay. Itlalzia has asked me, the question is, when should we use the ratios for CS? That is the CS ratio, I believe. Dear, when the examiner has asked you to calculate the break-even point in sales revenue, and at that point, the formula for break-even point in sales revenue is fixed cost divided by the weighted average CS ratio. And at that point, you have to calculate the weighted average CS ratio. The product ratio given for the CS ratio, we generally don't require that. We don't require that. In a multiple product situation, we require a break-even point in CS ratio. Here we calculate the break-even point in mixes. Hamza Mazhar has asked me how to calculate break-even point in units in multiple product case. Here we calculate it in mixes. And the formula will be fixed cost divided by contribution per mix. Let's hope there will be a question on that. So should we discuss now? Dania Inam has asked an excellent question, and this will be very important for you all. How to make graph in Excel where it is related to linear programming topic or CVP, if in case it comes in section C. So Dania and all the other students who are attending this session, the good news is that now, due to the CBE, you will not be tested to prepare a graph. So even the question relates in section C, you will not be asked to prepare a graph. So this hurdle has been removed. So this is the good news for coming in CBE. If there is a question on a graph or related to graph, the examiner will provide you with the prepared graph. Now, let's start the discussion. So the first objective test is, if here decide to host only the full marathon race, what is the margin of safety? So we have to calculate the margin of safety in percentage because all the options are in percentage. But also, as you can see, that we are now assuming that there is only one product, that is full marathon race. So for that, we will calculate the break-even point first. So how do we calculate the break-even point? How do we calculate the break-even point? Muhammad Bilal has gone further and asked me about the decision tree question. So dear, another good news that you won't be able to draw up. Yes, Vikas Jan has presented me the formula of margin of safety, and it has stated correctly that budgeted output minus break-even point divided by the budget output. So you see, you first have to calculate the break-even point first. So for this, I will be requiring the fixed cost, and we have how much the fixed cost is. So these four are the fixed costs. I will total it. The total will be 385,000. Fixed cost in this question is 385,000. So I will be dividing it with the contribution per unit of full marathon. Now the price for the full marathon was $55, I guess. Yes, it was $55. And the variable cost is 15.8 and 2.4. So selling price is 55 minus 15.8 minus 2.4. So this will be the variable cost per unit. So my break-even point will be, if you can calculate, it will be 385,000 divided by 55 minus 15.8 minus 2.4. It will be 10461.95. So if I round it off, it will be 10462. Now, my budgeted sales were 20,000. So if I subtract the break-even point from the budgeted sales, and whatever the answer is, I then further divide it by 20,000, the budgeted output, I will get the answer of 47.69% as presented by Gilbert Joy and Salman Abuzar as well. Sorry, I'm very bad in pronouncing the names. So with no offense, if I pronounce somebody's name incorrectly, don't mind that. So to round it off, the answer will be 47.7%. Mohammad Shahzad Akhtar has asked me, sir, question about decision tree can appear in section C? Well, I think it can be, but the chances are very low, to be honest. Now, in part B, assume that the race entries are sold in a constant sales mix based on the expected sales race entries number, that is the sales revenue. What is the sales revenue here even needs to achieve in order to break even point? So this is the question of break even point. Now, for the break even point in this question, we will be doing the same. So this question I'm leaving it for you, but I will be making the constant mix for you in that case. So we have two products. One is full marathon and the other one is half. So I'm writing F for full marathon and H for half. And the budgeted data is 20,000 and 14,000. So now let's prepare the mix of that. So first of all, both of these two are divisible by 1,000. So if I divide it, my answer will be 20:14. Now both these values are divisible by 2 as well. Both of them are divisible by 2. So if I divide it by 2, the answer will be 10. And for this, the answer will be 7. Now both of these cannot further divide into by a common value. So this will be my constant sales ratio. So my constant mix will be 10 full marathon and 7 half marathon. Yes, Gilbert, Joy and Asad Rafiq has calculated correctly 10:7. Now after that, you can apply the value of this weighted average CS ratio divided by the fixed cost, and you can calculate the break-even point, and the answer is $592,000. So I'm leaving it for you to solve. So someone just before has asked me that how to calculate the break-even point in units. So this is the way to calculate. However, although this is the question to calculate on total profit, but you can see how do we calculate it. In the same way, we can calculate the break-even point in units. The break-even point in units, the only thing you have to do is you have to ignore the required profit level. Now to do that, first of all, remember that to calculate it on required profit, what you do, you add fixed cost and required profit combine. You combine both of these. Now in the question, the fixed cost was 385,000 and the required profit is 500,000. That means this time we will be using 885,000. Now let's see how to calculate in units. So first of all, I will start it with this ratio. Now remember that to calculate the break-even point in units, I will be dividing the fixed cost by the contribution per mix. So I will require the contribution per mix. This is the question of required profit level. So I had already added required profit to. So this I had already calculated it. Now let's see how to calculate the contribution per mix. So we have two products, F and H. Selling price of F is 55 and H is $30, I guess. The variable cost as provided is, for full marathon, it is 15.8 plus 2.4. It is 18.2. So the contribution is 36.8. Same is for half marathon. It will be 10.8 plus 1.2. It is 12. So it will be 18. So it will be 18. Now, the contribution per mix will be 10 into 36.8 plus 18 into 7. The answer will be 10 into 36.8 plus 7 into 18. The answer is 494. So if I divide 885,000 by 494, 885,000 by 494, the answer will be 1791.50 if I round it out. It is actually 497. So it is, if I round it off to two decimal place, it will be 50. Now these are mixes. And we know each mix contain 10 units of F and 7 units of H. So if I multiply it with 10, the answer will be 17915. And if I multiply it with 5, the answer will be 8957. So let's look at the answer. Have I done an error in that? Is there any error? Can somebody identify that? Okay. So there is a multiplication error. 1791.50. If multiplied by the 7, the answer is yes. This is a multiplication error. It is 12540. 12540. So this will be my answer. My full marathon is how much? 17915, and my half marathon is 12540. Sorry, there was a calculation error in that. So this is an independent question, and in that you will be required to calculate the break-even point. Let's do this as well. Let's do this question as well. So in this question, we have been told that there is another race which is on 10 kilometers. Its selling price will be $20 and the variable cost is 8 and the fixed cost is 48,000. He has asked me that if all of these cost and income has increased by 10%, what will happen to the break-even point? Now, in such situation, there is a current situation and a proposed situation. In the current situation, break-even point is 48,000 divided by the contribution per unit, which is 20 minus 8. So it will be how much if you calculate it? Yes, it is 4,000 units. 4,000 units. So this is break-even point in units. Now what will be the break-even point in revenue? One way to calculate is to simply multiply it with selling price, which is 20. So this will be $80,000. This is the current situation. Now in the proposed situation, all the cost has been increased by 10%. That means my fixed cost will now be 52,800. My selling price will be 22 and my variable cost will be 8.8. With this way, if I calculate it, my break-even point will remain 4,000 units. That means in the proposed situation, my break-even point units will not change. But in the new situation, the proposed situation, selling price was 22,000. That means my sales revenue will be 88,000. That means my revenue will be increased by 10%. So this will be the correct answer. Break-even volume will remain unchanged, but break-even revenue will increase by 10%. B. Which of the following statements relating to cost volume profit analysis are true? So number one, product level and sales level are assumed to be the same, so there is no inventory movement. So this is true. And contribution to sales ratio can be used to indicate the relative profitability of different products. So this is also true. The statement number 3 and 4 is false. So now I will just have a 5 minutes break. And after the break, we will discuss the topic of pricing. This will be my next topic. And to be honest, I will be a little bit quicker because we have to complete. Asra Ahmed asked me that can you talk about multi-product profit volume chart? Dear, this is a revision session, and I feel that now this is not too important. This is because of the nature of exam right now. So as I didn't get so much time to discuss that, so I will not. It is a revision session, so I'm already discussing the key areas, key topics. So let's have a not 5, just 4 minutes break. Yes, 3 to 4 minutes break, and then we will come back. Now let's continue after the break. And let's discuss the topic of pricing. So what are the factors that the company should consider when setting a price? So it will be cost. Company should see what is the cost of its product, how its competitors are reacting, then what are the corporate objectives of the company. Any pricing decision should be in line with the corporate objectives, and how its customer reacts about the pricing decision, because ultimately it would be the customer who is paying the price. So these are the four important factors that we see in the pricing decision. Now let's come to some calculation aspect. So first of all, the price elasticity of demand. This can be done by a percentage of change in demand divided by the percentage of change in price. So what does this PED, price elasticity of demand, tell us? So if PED is greater than 1, then it means that the price is elastic. Or we can also say the other word is that it is sensitive. So that will mean the revenue will increase if the price is cut. Or in the other words, if the price is increased, the total revenue will fall. And if the PED is less than 1, then it will be vice versa. Let's look at the example. To calculate the PED. A football club charged $12 per ticket for home games. Average attendance at these regular games is 16,000. When prices increased by $1 per ticket, the attendance fell by 2,500. So generally remember that there is an inverse relationship between price and the demand. So the formula for the PED is the percentage of change in demand. So the change in demand is 2,500, and this is on the base of 16,000. So the percentage of change in demand is 2,500 by 16,000. It will be 15.625%. 15.625%. Now the change in percentage of change in price can be calculated as the change in price of $1 divided by the base price of 12. So it will be 1 divided by 12, and the answer is 8.33%. So the PED will be 15.625 divided by 8.33. The answer will be 1.875 or 1.88. 1.88. This is the price elasticity of demand. Yes, 1.875 or 1.88. And that means it is elastic. Elastic means that the pricing decision is sensitive. If we increase our price, my demand will fall more than that. Now the other point is demand function. So let's do it quickly. The demand function says give us a formula of pricing which is P is equals to A minus BQ. And this is an exam formula. Do you know what is an exam formula is? What is an exam formula? Do you know that? Anyone? Yes, given in the exam. It is included in the exam. Yes. So you don't need to remember the formula of demand function. It is given in your exam. P and Q are the variables. So Q is independent variable and P is dependent variable. So we will not be estimating when we are making this demand function, we are not estimating the value of Q and P. Rather, we are interested in calculation of B and A. B and A. Now, B means change in price divided by change in quantity. Whereas A means it is the theoretical maximum price at which demand will be zero. In the equation, we can calculate the value of A by A is equals to P plus BQ. That is how we estimate the value of A. If we can prepare the demand function of my previous example, in that example, at $12 price, the demand was 16,000, I guess. If I can go back, yes. Now we have been told that if the price changes by $1, demand will fall by 2,500. Demand will fall by 2,500. So change in P divided by change in Q will be 1 divided by 2,500. The answer will be how much? 1 divided by 2,500. The answer is 0.0004. So the value of B is 0.0004. Now to calculate A, I can re-equate my formula, which is A is equals to price. So price currently is $12 plus the value of B is 0.0004. I have just calculated it. And the value of Q is 16,000. So if I calculate the value, it is 18.4. So the value of A is 18.4. And I can write the equation now as P is equals to 18.4 minus 0.0004 Q. Yes, quite a lot of people has calculated it with me. That's very good. I would love to name them. It's Elizabeth and Motar Siddiqui, Hamza Shafkat, Aram Arain. All of them has calculated the right value of A. Now there is a profit maximizing price. So the economist says that when marginal cost is equals to marginal revenue, at that point, the price is profit maximizing. So the optimum price is when MC is equals to MR. MC represents marginal cost and MR represents marginal revenue. Now marginal cost means the variable cost per unit. The variable cost per unit. And MR means the formula, which is A minus 2BQ. And once again, this is an exam formula that is provided to you in the exam. Now, to steps to determine the optimum price and quantity will be this. So first of all, we will determine the demand equation. Then we estimate the variable cost per unit. Then we calculate the quantity using the formula of MR. And finally, determine price using demand equation. So let's see the example. This is the same example that a football club charges $12 per ticket for home games. Average attendance at regular game is $16,000. So this is the same example. So in this, we have been asked two requirements. One, to calculate the price for the full house. So if we want to sell 25,000 tickets, what should be the price? And then we should also estimate the profit maximizing price and quantity. So first of all, to calculate the price on 25,000 quantity, I will be requiring a demand equation, which is P is equals to 18.4 minus 0.0004Q, which I had just calculated. A is equals to 0 at maximum demand. No. A is a specific, A is a constant, it is specific in nature. So A means that it is a price at which demand will be 0. So A is not equal to 0. Now, if I put the value of 25,000 in place of Q, I will get the price. So it will be 18.4 minus 0.0004 into 25,000. The price will be how much? 0.0004 into 25,000. It is 10. So it will be 8.4. That means to sell 25,000 tickets, I have to set a price of 8.4. So any question? Any question? Okay. Now, let's estimate the profit maximizing price. So what should be the price in which my profit will be maximum? And for this, we have been told that the variable cost is $6. Now for this, the first step was to estimate the demand function, and we already did that. The second step was to estimate the variable cost per unit. So it is $6 provided in the exam. The third step is to find the value of Q using the MR equation. So MR equation was MR is equals to A minus 2BQ. And now we knew that MC and MR both should be equal. So because the value of MC is $6, so the value of MR should also be $6. The value of A is 18.4 minus 2.2 into 0.0004. This is the value of B and the Q. So I will then have the value of Q, the balancing value. And it will be how much? If I calculate it, so 12.4 divided by the answer, it is 15,500. Have you understood that? Yes, Salman, Abu Zar, Waqas Jan, thank you very much. Yes, this is the correct answer. Now, I will put the value of Q in the demand function to determine the price. So it will be P is equals to 18.4 minus 0.0004 into 15,500. So the price will be 12.2 dollar, 12.2. So this is the price. This 12.2 is the price at which 15,500 quantity will be sold, and at that point my profit will be maximum. So any question? Yes, Iram, Hamza, Salman, thank you very much. Yes, you are correct. The answer is 12.2. Now let's discuss few objective test question. The first few question was from this topic. Sorry, there is one more slide left. That is the pricing strategies. Let's discuss this. So now there are different pricing strategies. One is skimming. In skimming, what we do, initially we set higher prices. Initially we set higher prices and then later on we drop our price of the product. The penetration pricing strategy is completely opposite of the skimming, and in that we initially set low prices and then start to increase the price later. In premium pricing, we set a slightly higher price than our competitor, but we justify it with some premium benefit. So for example, I'm selling my mobile at a slightly higher price than my competitor, but I'm justifying it with that my product, my mobile phone, has a warranty period of say 2 years. So I'm offering an additional 1 year warranty for that. Discrimination means I'm setting a different price for different market. Product bundling means that I bundle my combination of product and then set a price. In psychological pricing, I set a price using the human psychology. So for example, instead of setting $100 for a price, I will set $99. So psychologically, the product seems to be cheap. Then product line pricing, in which we see the whole complete line of the product. We also have the pricing strategy of complementary product pricing, loss leaders, control, volume discounts, and most importantly, cost plus. So these are all the pricing strategies. So this is it on the pricing topic. Now let's move on to discuss some pricing questions quickly. The current price of a product ABC is $50. The competitor sells 1,000 units at their price. If prices drop by $5, which result in increase in demand by 200 units, what will be the demand equation look like? So first of all, I will be calculating B, and the formula for B will be change in price divided by change in quantity. Now the change in price as stated in the question is $5 and the change in quantity is 200. So the value of B will be 5 divided by 200. It is 0.025. Yes, Salman, Hamza, thank you very much. It is 0.025. Now I will put the value of B in the equation. So it will be A is equals to the price. The current price is $50. So it is 50 plus BQ. The value of B is 0.025 and the value of Q is 1000. So the answer will be how much? It will be 75, I guess. Is Salman 75? So this is the value of A. Hence my equation will be P is equals to 75 minus 0.025 Q. So the correct answer will be P. This is B. Which of the following is not true about market penetration pricing strategy? So we have to identify the false answer. So the correct answer is it is favorable where demand is highly inelastic. So this statement is false. This statement is false. The reason for this is that where demand is highly inelastic, that means if I increase my price, if my prices are higher, I will get more revenue. So in market penetration, I'm dropping my price. So this won't be a good strategy when my elasticity of demand of a product is inelastic. So now these are the limiting factor questions. So let's move on to that topic. Bilal Hassan has requested me, sir, could you please show the price strategy slide again? Yes, I will. Salman Abuzar has mentioned that it would be favorable for skimming. Yes, he is correct. Bilal, I will. As once again, this topic of pricing is over. So we will have a 3 minutes break. I just want a short break after every topic so that you can completely absorb that. So we will have a 2 to 3 minutes break and then we will start our new topic. And by the time I'm opening the side of pricing strategy. So this is. So just a couple of minutes break. I'm muting my mic and switching off my camera for a while. Now, we will be discussing another important topic of the decision making section, and this is linear programming. Fahad has just asked me that is pricing topic can appear in section C or not? So the answer is yes, it can. And how is it? It will be, maybe he has asked us about the demand function. Then he can ask me to calculate the profit maximizing price. And in the profit maximizing price, he may have provided us the data with the variable costs, data of material labor, and we have to estimate that. So something like that. Then there could be a requirement in which he has asked me about some pricing strategy. So something like that. But as I told you earlier, that this question is more likely to appear in section B. So that is why I have revised the topic in that way. It is important to know that, because as far as Fahad's question is appearing, that whether it will be a calculation based or theory based, Fahad, we cannot tell anything about in F5. Look, F5 is a skills based paper. So what examiner expect is that you have the required knowledge and you have the skills to adopt that knowledge in the given situation. So to be honest, it should not be mattered. If I'm going to attempt an exam in F5, it should not be the matter of concern for me, that whether it is a theory based or a calculation based. I cannot predict that, neither I should prepare in that way. The best way to do is try to do it in the exam. To do the revision kit, by the way. Jawad has asked me about when will I revise the budgeting topic. Dear, I am discussing the topics in the sequence. So once I complete my decision making section, which I am hoping that by tomorrow I will do that. So we will move on to the next section. Vakas has asked me, I think students are more interested in section C than section A and or B. Vakas, I could answer you this for the two ways, 2 to 3 points in that. So first of all, to pass an exam, you have to score at least 50%, and the examiner has not asked you to score 50% in section C or in A or in B. Your aggregate should be 50%. And especially in F5, not just in F5, rather I should say that this is the problem in F6, F7, F8 and F9 as well. That generally, especially in Pakistan, we took objective tests very lightly. Remember, these are skills-based questions, so we have to be prepared with really well. So this is the first part. The second part is that there are few topics which are likely to appear in section B, and then there are few topics that are likely to appear in section C. So the topic that we have yet covered is more likely to come in section B. Okay? And as Fahad has just mentioned, he has also commented me that Sir Excel pricing key practice. He basically wants me to make an Excel question, the pricing question on Excel. Dear, I can comment you on that is that there are two aspects. There are two aspects in that. So first is, you know how to solve the question. And the other aspect is to do it in Excel, or I should say spreadsheet. These are two different things. So if you know how to perform your calculation in Excel, if you know how to perform calculation in Excel, then you can solve any question. So there won't be any change. So the question of pricing can be solved in the same steps as I did in manual. Yes, there are few techniques which is different. So what I have done over here is I have selected the spreadsheet questions for those areas which are likely to be examined. Please remember that, Fahad Waqas, as I can see your questions. Please do remember that this is a revision session. This is a revision session. And all the time we have is 15 hours. And that is 3 hours into 5 days. Now, to be honest, this is my safe assumption that you all have covered F5, the syllabus of F5, and you already knew how to perform these questions in Excel. I will be helping out you in that. Okay? So this is not a complete full. So I'm representing scans. I'm basically from scans. So in scans, in F5, we have 90 plus hours to cover the syllabus. So I cannot cover my 90 hour syllabus into 15 hours. It is impossible for me. At the end of the day, I'm a human, not an angel. Okay? So you have to be patient with me, and especially this linear programming topic is likely to appear in section B as well as section C. So I have included a section C type question for you. So I will be discussing that. And in that, I will be doing my calculation in spreadsheet. I will be discussing my question in the word processing format if it is a discussive point. So just wait for that. It is just that the topics that I have yet covered, is more related to section B, not section C. So should we start? We waste quite a lot of time with these arguments. So anyway, so from where I should start? I just forgot that. So anyway, this is the topic related to limiting factor. Limiting factor. Now sometimes what we have two products, and there are multiple limiting factors. Now to prepare a good production plan, in this situation, if these two situations appear, we will be using a linear programming model. We will be using a linear program. So first of all, let's see these steps. Sorry, it was my mistake. I had paused my screen and Asad, it was my mistake. I had just resumed the slide. So have you seen that now? Dear, this is my first slide. After my pricing strategy, this is my first slide. This is the start. This is the first slide after pricing. Okay? Asad, you will get it by tomorrow. Don't worry about that. And you will have these slides in your email as well. So don't worry about that. Just be patient and look at the webinar right now. Okay. So first of all, let's formulate the model. In graphical, this is a graphical model, and we have two main steps. One is formulate the model, and the other one is to make a graph. So in the formulating of the model, we have three main steps. And the first one is we should define variables, we should formulate objective function, and we should also formulate constraints. These are the three steps. Then we have to solve the problem. And to solve the problem, what we have to do is we have to plot constraint on a graph. Then we have to identify the feasible region. And then we plot the slope of the objective function and slide to the optimal point. And finally, we can then calculate the value of objective function. Now, it is important to note that these steps D, E, and F, these are now no longer required in the session CPEs. So this will not be tested. This will not be tested. And this is a topic which I think is suitable for section C. It can come up in section B as well as in section C. So let's discuss step by step. So for this, there is one question which is my favorite question that appears in June 2008. So what I will be doing, I will be taking this question and then solve the complete linear programming model with you. So this is the question that is on your screen. So I'm leaving you for around 4 minutes. That will be enough for you to read the information. So please read the information and then I will come back to discuss that. So I hope by the time you have read the information, let's now discuss this. Now the first step is to define the variables. And how do we define the variables? It is very simple. We should have two products. So one product will be represented a one algebraic variable, and the other number of units will be the other algebraic variable. So in this case, number of pool cues is X and number of snooker cues is Y. We can also use other variables like P and S. P for pool cues and S for snooker cues. This is totally up to us. But how do we define that? The next step is to develop constraints. So how do we develop that? So this is just the one constraint, that is 0.27x plus 0.27y must be less than or equal to 5400. Now how did I develop that? Let's see this. Now the basic constraint is that my material consumption should be less than or equal to material available. This is the constraint. This is the limitation. I can only consume the material which is available. Correct? Now, the formula for material consumption will be 0.27x. This is because 270 gram is required to produce a pool cue. So that means 0.27 kg for a pool cue, and the total consumption will be 0.27 kg per unit of pool cue multiplied by number of pool cues, and the number of pool cues is represented by X. Bilal has asked me that how are we going to put the equation of how to put the equation of less than or equal to. Let me explain this equation and then I will come back to your answer. And Iram has asked me, is it compulsory to convert in kgs and why? I will be answering both of them. Just bear a bit with me. Just bear a bit. So it is 0.27x plus 0.27y, because even y also requires 270 grams of labor, so I have converted it in kgs. So this will be my total consumption. If somebody asks me to calculate the total material used, this will be my formula. Usage per unit multiplied by number of units. So this is the usage per unit of X multiplied by X plus usage per unit of Y multiplied by Y. And this should be less than or equal to material available. So in the question we have been told that we have 5400 kg available. So this will be the equation. This is the equation that I have just wrote. Now coming to the two questions. One was asked by, sorry, I'm not recalling his name. So one was asked by Bilal, that how do we write less than or equal to. So Bilal, we don't have any option to write that with this sign. So we can write less than or equal to like this. Okay. Now coming to the Iram's question, that is it compulsory to convert in kg and why? Dear, it is not necessary to convert my calculation in kg, but we have to remember that my material availability and my material consumption should be having a same base. Should have a same base. So either my material available should be in kg and my material consumption should also be in kg, Or if I want to state my question in grams, then it will be 270x plus 270y should be less than equal to 5.4 million grams. So either the whole equation should be in grams or it should be in kilogram. This is up to you. Have you understood that? Now, similarly, we can prepare the constraint of labor. Then there are also the constraints of sale demand, because in the question we have been told that the demand for the pool cue was 15,000. So I will not make more than 15,000 units. And same is for snooker cues, which I have represented in Y. So these are the sale demand. And if I move on, there are non-negativity constraints. Non-negativity constraint means that the value of X and Y cannot be in minus, cannot be negative. So any answer that will be acceptable should be X must be greater than equal to 0 and Y should also be greater than equal to 0. Now what I do, I will develop the objective function. And the objective function can be done by contribution per unit of X into X plus contribution per unit of Y into Y. Father asked me the question, what about variables? So I didn't get what is he asking. I didn't get that. So in this question, if I go back, the selling price of pool cue was how much? It was 41, and for the snooker cue it is 69. The material cost is, we require 0.27 kg of material and the selling price is $40. So this will be 0.27 into 40. It will be 10.8. So this 10.8 will be the same in both cases. Then we have a labor cost. It will be 18 per hour. So 0.5 are required by pool cue. So it will be $9 and 13.5 for snooker cues. It is 0.75 multiplied by 18. And the variable overheads are 1.2 and 4.7. So when we calculate that, the contribution per unit of P is 20 and the contribution per unit of S is 40. So that is how where I have made the equation 20x plus 40y. For which variable? All the variables which was material, labor, sales demand, I have made the constraints. Now to see my further data, I am removing this. so that you can see my further part of the slides. And for the further part is the graphing model. As I have just told you, Salman Abu Zahr has asked me, do we need to show these calculations regarding the objective function, how we derive them? So Salman, if not being provided in the exam, then you should. Yes. And Jawad Mahmood has asked me, sir, can minimizing cost come in paper? So yes, it is part of our syllabus. It can come up in the exam, but I haven't seen any question on that. So to be safe, I should say that this is not a lovable topic of the examiner. Now, this graph, which you used to prepare in before I could go to the graph, there's one interesting question. In Irfanullah Hussaini Saeed, I hope I have pronounced the names right, has asked me the question, sir, why do we write should be maximum? This is our objective. This is our objective. What I can try to say is that I have to identify the value of x and y in such a way that the answer should be maximum. So I'm setting an objective. That is why the word should comes in. Okay. Now the graphing model. So as I told you earlier, we used to prepare these graphs. We calculate these, then we put the lines on the graph. So earlier we used to prepare these graphs. But now this is not required in the session CV. So this graph will be provided to you. Okay. But what you have to know over here is, let me have some other color, some brighter color. So I'm doing it with light blue. We have certain points within the visible region. So this is point 1. This is point 2. Here it is point number 3. This is one more point 4. And this is the point 5. Now out of these 5 points, 1 point has the answer that I'm looking for. Now this dotted line represents the objective function. So what I do? I will put a scale alongside and then drag the scale to outwards. And the last point that crosses through the scale will be my optimal point. So when I drag upward, the last point will be this one. This one. And this will be the optimum point. So I can say that my last optimum point is at the line of labor constraint. So the labor constraint line is with the brown color. And the demand of y. The demand of y was the purple line. So these are the two lines that are intersecting on my optimum point. Should we move ahead? So now moving on. Hamza Shafaqat has asked me to repeat the graph. Okay, this is the graph. This will be provided to me in the exam. So what I do, if you can see in my camera, first of all, I will put a scale just alongside the line, the objective function line. And then slightly I will drag it further outward. So you can see there are few points that I had mentioned. There are few points. I have tick marked that. So when I drag my scale outward, turn by turn, my points will start to cross. The last point that I will appear within the feasible region should be my optimum point. Now, it is important to note that this is important point right now over here is that the lines that are on the optimum point will be known as critical limiting factor. So the line was labor and demand of Y. Both of them are critical limiting factors. Mohammad Idlal Zia has asked me, sir, kindly discuss the mathematical method for ISO contribution line. Dear, from the graph, first of all, you have to identify the points. I'm coming to the mathematical way, by the way. Just wait. So, labor and demand of Y was critical. And the other limitations, which is the material and sales demand of X, will be known as non-critical. Why I had identified that, I will be discussing it in later way. So you have to bear with me. Now coming to the simultaneous equation. Coming to the simultaneous equation, and I will request Mohammad Ijlal Zia to let's concentrate a bit. What happens over here is okay. Now, as you can see, it is hard to read the optimal point from the graph. So we use simultaneous equation to determine the point. So what happened over here is that we have identified our optimal point, but at that optimal point, how much unit of pool cues or snooker cues can be made? It is difficult to read for me. It is difficult. So what in such situation, what we do, we prepare a simultaneous equation. So how do we do that? So first of all, we select the two equations that are on the optimal point. And what were these? These were the demand of Y and labor. So labor constraint and demand of Y. Mohammad Shahzad Akhtar has asked me difference between critical and non-critical. Shahzad, I will come up again. I haven't explained the critical and non-critical because there is nothing to do with right now. It is just that we have seen the graph. So it was good for me to identify the critical and non-critical limiting factor at that point. Now, what does that mean? I will be explaining it in a moment. Okay? Now, the equation was equation 1 and equation 2. Now, what I do, I will solve it simultaneously. Now, this is a fairly simple question. So, in this question, in the equation 2, I can directly have a value of Y, which is Y is equals to 12,000. So what I can do, can put the value of Y from equation 2 to equation 1. So if I solve it, if I put the value of Y in equation 1, the answer will be 6,000. So I already knew the value of Y, that is 12,000, and I have calculated the value of X, that is 6,000. And so my optimum point will be Y is equals to 12,000 and X is equals to 6,000. It has been asked to calculate the total contribution. It will be, I will put the value of optimum product mix into the objective function, which was 20x plus 40y. So the answer will be 600,000. So this is how we do that. Have you understood that? The linear programming topic is not finished yet. This is just that we have identified the optimum production plan. Irfanullah Hussaini has asked me if value of y is not given. Dear, this would generally be the case in the question. This would generally be the case in the question. So as usual, what I can request you over here is wait. In this question, we have been provided, but especially what I've chosen an exam standard question for you. It will not be like that. There will be two different equations and we will see how to solve such equations. So you have to wait for that as well. I knew few important points, few important concerns of students, and I have already included in my planned discussion. But due to lack of time, as I can see, it is already how much? It's been around 20 minutes left around. So I will not be discussing your point today, but tomorrow I will. Yes, 20 minutes left. Now, let's move on. So the other topic in this is shadow price and slack. So the shadow price, the other name for shadow price is, by the way, is dual price. And what shadow price is, that the additional contribution from having one more unit of scarce resource. It is that how much contribution I will earn if I have one additional resource. So this is the maximum extra you would pay for one more unit. Now it is important to note that the shadow price of a non-critical limiting factor will be zero. The shadow price for a non-critical limiting factor will be zero. So over here, let's also discuss what is a critical limiting factor and a non-critical limiting factor. So the critical limiting factor. Critical limiting factor. It is a limiting factor. I am writing LF for limiting factor. So it is a limiting factor which is fully utilized at optimum point. Which is fully utilized at optimum point. So labor is a critical limiting factor because its labor consumption at optimal point and the availability of labor hours both will be same if you calculate it. If I can do it quickly, the constraint for labor was 0.5x plus 0.75y. So if I calculate 0.5 into 6,000, because there were 6,000 units of x plus 0.75 y, which is y is how much? It was 12,000. So when you calculate it, you will find that your answer is 12,000 hours. And the labor hours are also available of 12,000. Okay? So you can see that this resource is fully utilized. That is why it is called critical. Now, what is a slack? Slack is the amount by which a resource is underutilized. A resource is underutilized. It will occur when the optimum point does not fall on the given resource line. So in my next slide, I have calculated the shadow price or the dual price. But before calculating the shadow price, let's calculate the simple point, that is the calculation of a slack. So the calculation of a slack means that the resource remaining at an optimal point, and for a critical limiting factor, this will always be 0. Slack of a critical limiting factor will be 0. Critical limiting factor will be 0. Okay? Now, that means slack will always be of a non-critical limiting factor. So remember that we have a production plan of X is equal to 6,000 units and Y is equals to 12,000 units. So we can calculate the slack in 3 steps. First of all, we put the units of optimal production in the constraint. So the constraint was material. Material was a non-critical limiting factor. So its constraint was 0.27x plus 0.27y, correct? So if I can put the values, it will be 0.27 into 6,000 plus 0.27 into 12,000. So what would be my answer? It will be 0.27 4860. Aram has answered me that it is 4860. 4860. Okay. So that means at optimal point, I have consumed 4860. Now, I had 5400 kg available, but I have consumed 4860 kg. That means at optimum point, I have left with 540 kg. That means this resource is not fully utilized. This resource is not fully utilized. So this 540 kg is a slack. So this is the calculation I have already made. Okay. Now let's move on to the shadow price. Irfanullah has asked me, is there any other name of slack? No, Irfanullah, I don't think so. At least I haven't seen that. But you can refer the dictionary. There must be some other synonyms for slack as well, and examiner can use that. But I hope this is more of an English part. So first of all, to calculate the shadow price or the dual price, what you will do, you will add 1 unit to the constraint while leaving the other critical constraint unchanged. So for example, if you are calculating the shadow price of a labor, what you do, you will add 1 unit, 1 labor hour of labor, but you will not change the other critical limiting factor. Now what you do, you solve the revised equation. So you will once again use the simultaneous equation over here. And with that, you will find the value of x and y. Now, what you do, you recalculate the contribution. And finally, you calculate the difference between the revised optimal contribution and the existing optimal contribution. Atiba Aslam has requested me, can you please share your WhatsApp group? Yes, sure. I will be having a 1-minute break. I had prepared it, but I will communicate to the ACC representative, and the ACC representative will email you, to email all of you. So you can have the access of the WhatsApp group. Now let's calculate the shadow price of labor. So what, if you can notice, is that the two critical limiting factors were labor and the sales demand. Because I'm calculating the shadow price of labor, so I have add one resource of labor. So it's not 12,000, it's 12,001 this time. And now I will solve my equations as I did before. So this time around, the value of y, because it has already been provided, and that is 12,000, the value of x is 6,002. So the optimum point after increasing one resource of labor R is y is equal to 12,000 and x is equal to 6,002. The total contribution will then be 600,040. 600,040. And finally, we will be able to calculate the shadow price. So the shadow price of labor will be total contribution. Now, after adding one resource, which was 6,40,000, and the total contribution that we earned before adding one resource, which was 600,000. So the shadow price over here is $40. Now what $40 will tell us? It means that we can afford to pay up to extra $40 per hour. We can afford to pay an additional $40 per hour. Have you understood that? So any question? So this is it for the day. Tomorrow, I will be moving on the day 2 questions. And if I can open it, this is a question of linear programming. So tomorrow I will start with discussing this question. And as you can see that it is a section C type question. So we have been provided with the spreadsheet. So I will be doing in the spreadsheet format for you. So you can see that. We will have more section C type questions in the coming days. So you will be seeing how to perform your question in spreadsheet and Word. from tomorrow. So is there any question up till now? Kindly solve the question with one critical constraint. Huh. Jawad, there's always be two critical constraints. There will always be at least two critical constraints. We cannot use simultaneous equation. You have seen an MCQ? Okay. If you can refer me that MCQ, I will discuss that. I can understand where this MCQ can come from. So if you can share it with me, I will discuss that. Okay? Well, I cannot refer the Captain Kidd question right away. So I will discuss that. It is on a single limiting factor, by the way. And the answer will then be the contribution per hour for the unit that we are unable to produce. It is a very straightforward. We don't need to solve that even. So anyway, thank you very much. I will be sharing my WhatsApp group detail to the ACCA representative, and they are going to email you by day and today. So I will see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pakistan Standard Time. Those who don't live in Pakistan can see their time according to the time zones. So thank you very much. And tomorrow I will be discussing first of all this linear programming question, and then we will move on to the other topics. So thank you very much.